It's time to get this place a little bit more organized for my current workflow. Welcome back to the channel, folks. Today we're getting this place a little bit more organized and set up for my current workflow. That means moving some printers around and maybe some other things as well. My initial thoughts here, at least for the time being, are move the A1 minis all onto this rack. Because I have 4 A1 minis and only 2 of them are really in use right now, it's kind of not efficient. I've got the A1 mini with the AMS, only 3 of the 4 AMS slots are working. Whatever reason, AMS slot 1 won't feed filament, so it's kind of a negative, but at the same time, I only really use one color at a time. If I'm gonna do multicolor printing, generally speaking, I won't do more than 2 colors in a print. So not a huge deal. At some point, I would like to figure out why AMS slot 1 isn't working, but I think for the time being, if we can get these Flashforge machines moved over onto the Workbench and get the other 2 A1 minis up onto this bench, then at least we'll have 4 A1 minis and the P1P. Keep this rack here, Bamboo Lab machines. As for the Flashforges, I'm thinking over here, if I remove the Cobra S1 and put it over where the 85X is, then I should be able to fit all 3 of the Flashforge machines over here. Thinking 85X, 5M, and then the 5M Pro down at the end. That does still leave us with 1 filament dryer, the Sunlu S4 filler dryer. So maybe I'll put the Cobra S1 upstairs in my office so I can use that for prototyping and stuff when I'm not down here in the print farm. Then we can fit the S2 filler dryer and the S4 over here, and maybe even take the E2 dryer off and just kind of have all of the filament dryers over here behind this little workspace area. That way all the printers are in one area, aside from the Plus 4, which doesn't get used super often, but when I need it, it's super handy to have because it's got the 12-inch build plate, or 305 millimeters or so, and it's got the hottest printing temperature, which means I can pretty much print anything I want with that machine. So finding a good spot for that, as of right now, that's the best spot that I've had, so that's where it's probably gonna stay. But it is nice having it close to one of the filament dryers, especially the E2 over there, which can go up to 110C, which means it can also be used to anneal some of the parts that go through that printer. So that's my plan for right now. Get the A1 minis on the rack behind the camera, next to all the other Bamboo Lab machines. Get all of the Flashforge machines onto the Workbench where I've got the Cobra and the S4 filler dryer. Then we can get the dryer over here. You kind of get the idea. Doing a little bit of moving around. As you can see, I've got the 4th, or in this case, it's A1 Mini 2, that I usually take with me if I go to Maine or on vacation anywhere, just so I have a printer that I can mess around with in my downtime. But right now, getting into the holiday season, I think it's best fit for the shop. So, gonna get it onto the racks and kind of see where we're at after the A1 minis are all set up in their spots. So I guess the best plan of action is gonna be removing the Flashforge machines first, set them on the shipping station or something. Oh, there goes the ABS. Okay. 5M is done. Because I have one A1 Mini without an AMS system and without the Infinity Flow, I might just keep this here, now that I think about it, and use this on A1 Mini 2. That way, all 3 of the A1 Minis without an AMS have some sort of auto swap over system, and then I can use the A1 Mini with the AMS and just let that do its auto refill the way that the AMS naturally does it. I think that's how I'm gonna do this. Which means in the case of this guy, also gonna need to disconnect the 5Ms from the UPS. Maybe that original one will do. All right, so let's try this. I am gonna need to print out another farm loop base for this, but for the time being, this setup will work all right. I also need to get some more PEI sheets because I can't use farm loop with the Super Tack plates. Now the big question is, do we have enough room over here to use the A1 Mini with the AMS without really moving things down a whole lot. That is going to be a tight fit. I think the biggest issue that I'm seeing is these are going to run into each other. And I obviously don't really have much room to change the filament out. Would it work? Yeah, I mean, I think it'll work. I just don't know if I've got these things moving at different speeds or different print jobs for that matter. Am I going to be able to rely on this to not bump into this or get, basically, are things going to get caught up while the other machines are working is what I'm concerned about. The other thing is changing filament out on this, especially if it's going, it's basically going to be impossible, especially on this side. Can I scoot it out of the way and get the filament off? Sure. I think for now, this is how it's going to have to work. We'll run some tests and see if we run into any issues. Get this set back up with the farm loop base. I think that's going to have to be how it be. I do need to print another front cover for this one in order to use it with the farm loop system. So we will get the 85X working on that since that's the machine that I used it for. That also leaves us with a little bit of room over here. Do want to move, I guess we'll get the 5M Pro set up over down here. Then we'll put the 5M in the middle and then the 85X on the end where the Cobra is. Okay. I've also got the Farm Loop Stage 1 fan upgrade that we're going to be putting on, I guess, A1 Mini 1. We'll try it out on A1 Mini 1 in an upcoming video. Basically, it's a fan attachment. We print out the parts that mounts to the side of the A1 Mini. And then when Farm Loop is finished, it'll activate the fan, which will pretty much rapidly cool the bed down so we're not waiting half hour, 45 minutes for the next cycle to start. It should happen within 5 to 10 minutes, if that. Another thing they sent over is the Stage 2 prototype kit, which I'm going to get installed onto A1 Mini 2. Basically, this includes an electronic lifting mechanism for the build plates. So the A1 and A1 Minis can flex the build plate just like the P1P can, which means it'll be easier to print things like PETG using the Farm Loop system. So we've got that. We've also got a fan in this one to get installed. So that'll be for A1 Mini 3 over here. They're kind of out of order. We're going 1, 3, 2, and I guess AMS. Technically, that was my first A1 Mini, but it doesn't really matter. Get some of this glue out of the way. This guy's going upstairs. Spare nozzles for the Cheaty. All right, the 85X. The 85M. And the 85M Pro. Looks like I'm gonna need one more outlet over here. So unfortunately, I will need one more outlet or an extension cord, something to make the Adventure 5M Pro work, just because right now I've only got 2 outlets over here. That said, there is a basically brand new electrical panel right there, so I'm thinking I'm probably just gonna knock out one of the knockouts and put an outlet right behind here. I might even do 2 just for the sake of having 2 outlets on their own separate circuit, since the outlet that I've got the 5M and the 85X plugged into also runs the middle outlet and the outlet down at the end closer to the +4. The +4 is currently plugged into its own 20 amp circuit, but the one next to it, but I have my FlexiSpot desk plugged into and my laptop power cord, that is kind of all along this same wall here. I also think A1 Mini 1 is on that same circuit too, as well as the lights underneath this rack. So yeah, it wouldn't hurt to have another 20 amp or two 20 amp outlets behind here somewhere. I've been saying that for a couple weeks now, but it's gotta happen. It's gotta happen soon because I'd like to be able to print with the 5M Pro. So that leaves us with somewhat of a predicament over here. Obviously, I said this is gonna go upstairs, so I know what's gonna happen with this guy. The S4 filler dryer can, I guess it can sit over there for now. I don't really have any reason why it can't. The S2, no reason why this can't also sit over here. The +4 though, it would be really nice if I could get the +4 somewhere over there, but I think we've tried that before and there's just no way that it's gonna fit anywhere else for the time being. So there it sits. The E2 filler dryer, I keep on top of it because it can go to the highest possible temperature. And this is the printer that goes again to that highest possible temperature. I feel like they match up well with each other. So after 10 or 15 minutes of work, that leaves us with a print farm that looks a little bit more like an organized print farm. I've got all three of the Flashforge machines here in order from, I guess, most used to least used for the time being. Not that the 85M Pro is, I don't want to call it an unused machine. It's just, I only use it when I need to print something that's enclosed. For the most part, it really gets used mostly for ABS and nylons. And the majority of the stuff that I print in here is PLA or PETG. So it's something that can be printed on both of these machines. The 85X is the most used out of the Flashforges just because I can load 4 different colors on there and I don't have to come down or I don't have to get up and unload the filament to put new spools on. I can just keep a black and a white for the most part, and most of the time I keep gray on there as well if I have gray in stock, but right now we're still running a little bit low. And then over here we've got all of our Bamboo Lab machines currently lined up here, just barely able to fit the A1 Mini with the AMS. I'm still not sure how it's gonna work in an actual printing production environment, but at least it's over here and we've got these things set up the way that I'm thinking they're gonna be used. I still need to print out 1 more farm loop base and 2 more farm loop covers for both of those A1 Minis at the end. And I also need to order a new textured PEI sheet because, again, the farm loop push system, even if I put the stage 2 bed lift thingamabob on this A1 Mini, I still don't think it's gonna have enough flex or force to break stuff off of that super tack plate. The super tack is super tacky. So need to get a new textured PEI sheet ordered for that before we can even think about running the farm loop printing system on there. But it is nice to have all 4 of these set up now, and especially now that I have the S1 attached to A1 Mini 2, once I get farm loop set up on that, all 3 of these systems that don't have an AMS will be able to run at least 12 loops of the dumbbells or whatever else I have on the docket to print on these machines. I'll be able to basically just keep filaments stacked up and loaded up onto these machines. As for the P1P, admittedly, it has become less of a used machine in here. Now that I have these set up doing kind of what I want them to do, the P1P is kind of just my go-to machine. It's got the biggest build plate aside from the +4, and it's got that enclosed Sunlu 3D printing mate, I guess is what they're calling it, on top of there, so I can do things like drying my PETG while I'm printing or pre-drying. So it's technically like a 4th filament dryer in here. It's got the cryo grip plate on there, which doesn't work very well with the farm loop system, just because it's one of those super stickier plates, I guess. So textured PEI got to get swapped onto there when I want to use farm loop on it. It really, really comes in handy with that cryo grip plate for printing taller things like these dumbbell rods, just because it takes a fair amount of time to print them. And on any of these other machines, you've got the bed moving back and forth. It will work on the super tack plate, but I can't fit quite as many on there. So the P1P really is my go-to for anything that's tall that it needs to take a while to print. Or if, again, I want to do some multicolor prints, I can throw it onto the P1P as well. I really need to figure out at some point here in the near future why the AMS light is not feeding from slot 1. Again, it works from every other slot on this system except for the first one. So if any of you have had that issue and you fixed it, managed to fix it, let me know in the comments below what you did to get it working. If I need to buy a new one of these motors, I'm more than happy to do it. But if I don't, and it's just something simple, like maybe a clogged piece of filament inside that I just can't see, or maybe the gears need to be cleaned out, something like that, I'd love to hear your thoughts on it and what you did to fix it. I know my buddy Sam over at Samcraft is also experiencing an issue similar to that, where 1 or 2 of his slots he's just not able to feed filament into and the system is giving an error. And that's kind of what mine does. I'll go to print, it'll get a couple layers down sometimes, or it did back when I was using it. Then it would swap to slot 1 and basically tell me there was a filament feeding error. So I don't know if the gears are clogged up with something and it's preventing them from turning, which prevents the filament from flowing through. Honestly, I'm kind of at a loss. I haven't really spent a whole lot of time digging into it just because, again, I've got slots 2, 3, and 4, and I've got a slew of other machines that I can use if I need to print something. But it would be nice to be able to load up filament on all 4 of these slots at some point again in the near future. So if you've figured out or had this same sort of issue with your AMS light, leave me a comment down below. It only has about, well, I could tell you how many hours this has on it. And this machine has only been used with the AMS light. It's never been used without this system on it. So the AMS light has about the same amount of hours as A1 Mini with the AMS. So yeah, so this has 1900 hours exactly on it as of right now. And it hasn't been running for the last few months anyway, when I've had these guys going. That issue happened a few months ago, and I've just kind of let it sit. So about 1900 hours on the A1 Mini and on that AMS light, and we're kind of experiencing this issue now. So again, if you have any thoughts as to what might be going on, your help would be greatly appreciated. As for right now, we need to get this guy printing out another one of the A1 Mini farm loop base plates. So, well, I guess this is a 2-part print, right? I guess we'll use yellow for this one. So it's AMS slot 4, and then we'll use blue for the other, and it'll be in Mountain Maker colors. All right, and then we've got the 2 pushers for the A1 Minis that we're gonna need printed out as well. I've got white in here, so we might as well use white on this one. This one should take about an hour and 20 minutes or so, and then we can get on to printing the next one. 85X just finished up on the first of the 2 pushers for these other A1 Minis. We've got the first one installed on A1 Mini with the AMS. Since it's got the base set up already, I can pretty much just get started using that. I do need a bucket to go in front to match how I have these ones set up, so it's got some way to collect the parts that it's printing. P1P is almost finished up with the first side of the little lift stand for A1 Mini 2. Then I can get it set up to print the other side and we can get that part assembled. 85X just starting up on the next one now for A1 Mini 2, so that should take about an hour and 20 minutes or so. And we've probably got another 2 hours or so before I can finish up on the actual base form. Making some good progress in here today though, so I'm really happy with how I've got things laid out for the time being. I do have another light sitting above the Flashforge machines right now that's not currently plugged in. These lights are they're pretty cheap from Amazon. I think a pack of 8 of the 4-footers is somewhere around $80, so it's not a huge investment. That also means that the power cords that come with them, I think I've gone through 2 or 3 of them. These lights pretty much stay on all the time, so I guess it's understandable. I would like to still figure out a better solution for the light setup in here, just because over my shipping station, there's no light. In order to have light over there, especially for the videos, I have to put one of my filming lights kind of facing the station so I can actually see what I'm doing. My only dilemma right now is I don't have enough power cables. I'm pretty much down to strips of lights that are connected to each other in unison and 2 or 3 power cables that are actually powering all of the lights. As you can see, this entire row of A1 Minis has a pretty good light casting down on top of it, so it makes it much easier to see things, especially if I'm printing in black, which these tend to do most of the time. And I know for the majority of you, this is pretty boring. It has nothing to do with actual 3D printing or stuff to do in the print farm, but this is what my life has become sometimes. So this is just me getting my thoughts out. I know some of you hate it, some of you love it. So those of you who don't like it, I'll see you in the next video. Those of you who are interested though in my thought process and how I kind of go about, I guess, doing things, it's much easier if I just talk to someone, or in my case, the camera. But afterwards, being able to see your comments really helps me make improvements that I probably wouldn't have otherwise thought of. So I appreciate those of you who stick around and actually listen to me babble and talk about lights and stuff that actually doesn't have to do with 3D printing and is more part of the filming thing. But I know there's some of you who watch these videos who are into your own 3D printing thing and doing the YouTube thing. So I figure, you know, can't hurt for those of you who are actually interested in the filming process of stuff. I know I've had a number of questions on some of my other videos about what I use to film, what I use to edit, my filming setup and stuff like that. So I am planning a video going through, maybe doing a shop tour as well after we get things a little bit more straightened out, and just talk about kind of how I do things, maybe set up a behind the scenes camera to show my process of moving things around and taking different shots to make these videos a little bit more interesting than me just standing in one spot filming the entire thing. Although I tend to do that quite a bit too. So I did have one more thought of something I could do with the shipping station, but it would kind of impact my little set that I've got going on over here with the Cheaty, the backdrop, the Mountain Maker logo, my giant Flexi Spot 6-foot desk. And that would be to move the shipping station from where it is, basically right here, and put it right here next to the filament wall. That would require me moving this toolbox. I've been enjoying having this toolbox here because it's got all the supplies that I need, not just for the 3D printing stuff, but it's got all of my batteries, my chargers, my extra lenses, my teleprompter, basically a charging station for all the camera stuff. Again, the other issue is the shipping station is 6 feet long and 3 feet deep. 6 feet long basically goes to somewhere over here if I butt it right up against the filament rack, which is fine. That actually works pretty well, except this desk here, it would stick out and basically touch that corner of the desk, which means this whole setup over here would kind of have to get moved. And I do enjoy having this little setup over here just to be able to film stuff if I'm doing live streams or unboxing something, or like when I had the 3 different printers set up, the Cobra S1, the 85X, and the P1P set up to do their print versus print test. It's nice having a dedicated area that's not over by the printers if they're working, that I can set up and do some stuff over here. So it might require a little bit of rearranging on my part to get things working the way that I'd like them to. But moving the shipping station from over here to over here would give me much better lighting over there, and it would also give me power on the wall. Right now I've got power basically running from the ceiling down a long extension cord onto the floor, and then there's another power strip that plugs in everything that's on the shipping station. But that's a project for another day, I think, because in the next video I've got some orders to get shipped out, and I don't really have time to mess around with moving this shipping station right now anyway. And just a quick update for those of you who have purchased the Infinity Flow S1 Plus. If you are interested in the hard mount for the filament cutters, they've got it on their website now. If you go into the CAD downloads under the help section, I believe it's listed under solid mount for the S1 Plus cutters. So that is available at this time if you're interested in having your filament cutters mounted a little bit sturdier like they are on the original S1 machine, instead of kind of moving and flopping around like they had originally on the S1 Plus. I will have that link in the description of this video, as well as my initial setup video of the S1 Plus, so you can go and download those files and print them out for yourself. Let me know what you think of the new setup here in the print farm, if you would make any changes yourself, aside from maybe removing that 10 gauge wire and cleaning it up a little bit more. What do you think of the new setup that I've got going on in here? Is this a better workflow than what I had before? Or, like I mentioned, would you change anything about this setup, aside from my wooden rack? That's staying. The metal racks aren't super expensive, so I may get one of those here in the next couple of months. I'm happy with how things are. Again, let me know what you think down in the comments section below. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to smash the thumbs up button so YouTube knows you enjoy this type of content. If you don't want to miss out on the next upload, be sure to hit the subscribe button down below. And if you're interested in watching more of my 3D printing content, I've got another video queued up for you right here. Take care, folks.